Welcome back. The counting has been completed here for the Advertiser Opinion Poll for Galway West, South Mayo. I'm joined once again by Kernan Andrews from the Galway Advertiser and Peter Timmins from the Galway Advertiser. And the final results showed that O'Queeve was elected, reaching the quota, and the other four elected without reaching the quota are Sean Kine, Trevor O'Clochartaigh, Noel Grealish and Derek Nolan. Any surprise there, Kernan?
There's no surprise about Eamon O'Queeve, Sean Kine and Noel Grealish being returned in this survey. The big surprises are Trevor O'Clochartaigh coming in probably on the third seat according to our figures here. Now, one of the fascinating things about Trevor is that while initially we had suspected him to struggle in Connemara, being squeezed by two big candidates and maybe not picking up a lot of votes in say the city or that, what we found is that right across the constituency, Trevor is picking up votes from everywhere. This is looking like that Sinn Féin, who we might expect to struggle, are actually much stronger throughout the constituency than we might have thought. So there's a very strong chance of Trevor now making the seat, because their vote is much more spread throughout the constituency rather than being concentrated too much in any one area, and that'll be very important for Trevor's chances. So Trevor's could be quite the story of this election, because not only would he be making the breakthrough for the seat, he would also be the first Sinn Féin TD elected in Galway since the 1920s. Okay. So we're talking about almost a 100-year gap for the party in that. Now, the other fascinating thing is Derek Nolan, in spite of all the predictions, in spite of the decline of Labour support nationally, Derek Nolan holding on and retaining the seat for Labour. That'll be an important boost for the party. Now, party people have, who I've been talking to over the last while, have felt that there's enough of a momentum there behind him to see him home. Labour
has there been any of Michael D vote there?
Partially will be the result of the seat that Michael D has built up, but Michael D himself over the years has said that it's not just about him, it's about building the Labour brand as well. So we would be looking at Derek, meaning to hold that and continue that legacy on, and by making sure there's an established Labour seat in Galway West, just like there's an established Fianna Fáil seat, an established Fine Gael seat. We have to add in a caveat though regarding Derek Nolan's win. He picks up transfers from Fine Gael, and we would expect that the government parties would be transferring to each other, or certainly the parties will be hoping that their voters will be transferring between their candidates. However, Hildegard Naughton, quite surprisingly, is running Derek Nolan quite close. Hildegard Naughton wouldn't have had the greatest prominence over the last couple of years in comparison to, say, people like Catherine Connolly, Sean Kine, Trevor O'Clochartaigh, but she's actually performing quite well. So she's probably she could be quite the dark horse of this election. Now, if the transfers break down as they do in our poll, she will elect Derek Nolan. However, it could be just as easily work out in the day that the transfers could work another way, and Derek's transfers could elect her. So we are looking at two government seats. The question remains, according to our survey here, Derek Nolan will take the second government seat. But as with always, with all the caveats, it's two government seats. It's so close to call. It could be difficult.
The poll
to
is just a snapshot in time.
A snapshot in time.
That it's not. So it can be very interesting. It can go either way.
I think the party is going to be looking at this as food for thought and seeing where they go. So parties do take notice of polls in spite of what they will say publicly.
Peter, our poll shows that 4 rurally based TDs have been elected, and the 5 elected TDs are all male. Is that sort of we saw a lot of importance about the gender quotas in this election? Would that be a disappointment to female voters?
Well, I'm sure it will be a disappointment to the female candidates particularly, and maybe the female voters also. But ultimately the voters decide, and there were some high calibre female candidates on that list, and we all have to accept the decision that the people make. And having gone through the results in detail and looked at the transfer patterns, I think it's actually too close to call. And even though Derek Nolan wins the last seat, a lot depends on the order of elimination of the candidates. And also, in opinion polls, the later counts are very, very unreliable, because very few people go down to number 10, 11, 12, 13 on a sample ballot paper like they would do in a real ballot. So having looked at the results myself, I think John O'Mahony, Hildegard Naughton and Catherine Connolly could not be ruled out of winning a seat in Galway West. Sean Kine It's going to be close between the three Fine Gaelers. Sean is the leading candidate on this poll at the moment, but he'll need to get every vote out to remain in pole position. Noel Grealish got a similar first preference vote to the last time. He'll need to stay transfer friendly. I know it sounds like I'm kind of hedging my bets a little bit, but in my opinion, Eamon O'Queeve is sure to get elected. Fine Gael will win 1 seat. And then there are 6 candidates for 3 seats, because Sinn Féin still have to get the vote out, and invariably Sinn Féin do slightly worse in real elections than they do at polling time. So Trevor O'Clochartaigh may be back in the bunch as well. And if he is, it'll be Derek Nolan, Hildegard Naughton, John O'Mahony, Trevor O'Clochartaigh, Catherine Connolly and possibly Noel Grealish. 6 for 3 seats. And I think it's very hard to tell who's going to win.
It's going to be fascinating because, you know, the Fine Gael guaranteed a seat, but not knowing who is, like, nobody's guaranteed that 1 seat, you know.
And that's based on this opinion poll. Could Fidel Mahili Eames stage a late surge, a proven vote getter in the past? Could either of the new parties? Who knows? You know, there's still a campaign to be fought and a long way to go.
And it's so tight, really, that the campaign will be crucial. And, like, you know, there are no certainties. In Galway West.
A big thing that comes out of our survey here is just how important it will be for the parties to motivate their supporters and get the vote out. As Peter was saying, Sean Kine looking good to take a seat, but needs every single vote he can get.
Hildegard is doing very well there.
Exactly, and she could run him quite close. We see how Trevor O'Clochartaigh has substantial potential to take a seat for Sinn Féin here, which would be a major breakthrough for the party in Galway as a whole. But at the same time, will the Sinn Féin vote get out there? And this is why it'll be very important for their councillors to maximise the voting potential in each of their areas in order to see them home. They really need to run a very, very tight campaign in order to do that. And again, Derek Nolan, Catherine Connolly running each other very, very close in this poll. Whom will benefit most from the transfers? Will Niall O'Toole's vote, which you would expect to be kind of soft left liberal, go mostly to Derek Nolan? Or might it go to Catherine Connolly? How pro-government will a Niall O'Toole vote go? And then, of course, although they're considerably down the list in terms of numbers, we also have, say, people like the Anti-Austerity Alliance and other votes like that. How big of an impact will their transfers play in putting one candidate ahead of another? Say how many will go to Trevor O'Clochartaigh, how many will go to Catherine Connolly?
Lots to play for. So it's going to be a fascinating campaign. There are going to be great stories out of Galway West, South Mayo, that constituency, over the next 4 weeks of the campaign, and every part of that campaign will be covered for you by the Galway Advertiser in our paper and online and digital as well. And the election count at the end of next month will be a lengthy affair, you feel, on maybe the Saturday or going into the Sunday perhaps, and every count and every bit of information will be brought to you online.